បាទជាបឋមខ្ញុំសូមគោរពអាដាមលោកជំទាវលោកស្រីដែលជាភ្ញៀវកិត្តិយសដែលចូលរួមក្នុងសិក្ខាសាលានេះហើយនឹងសូមស្វាគមន៍មកកាន់វគ្គទី1នៃសន្និបាតថ្នាក់ជាតិស្តីអំពីសេដ្ឋកិច្ចការងារនិងក្នុងឆ្នាំ2024បាទនៅក្នុងវគ្គទី1នេះយើងនឹងពិនិត្យមើលព្រមទាំងវិភាសាទៅលើប្រធានបទបម្រែបម្រួលទីផ្សារការងារនិងគោលនយោបាយក្នុងតំបន់សម្រាប់កំណើនការងារប្រកបដោយបរិយាបន្ននៅក្នុងវគ្គនេះផងដែរយើងនឹងផ្ដោតទៅលើការពិភាក្សាទៅលើនិន្នាការបញ្ហាប្រឈមនានាក្នុងទីផ្សារការងារព្រមទាំងឱកាសផ្សេងៗសម្រាប់ការអភិវឌ្ឍនៅក្នុងតំបន់ក៏ដូចជាពិសេសសម្រាប់ប្រទេសកម្ពុជាដែលជាធាតុចូលសម្រាប់ការរៀបចំនៃការអនុវត្តគោលនយោបាយដែលធានាបាននូវកំណើនការងារប្រកបដោយបរិយាបន្ននិងធានាបាននូវការគ្រប់គ្រងសម្រាប់កម្ពុជាចាក់ចេញពីប្រទេសដែលមានការអភិវឌ្ឍតិចតួចនៅក្នុងវគ្គនេះផងដែរយើងនឹងមានការចូលរួមខ្ញុំសូមបញ្ជាក់ទីថ្មីម្ដងទៀតនឹងមានការចូលរួមពីតំណាងរដ្ឋាភិបាលជាពិសេសក្រសួងការងារបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលនិងវិជ្ជាជីវៈតំណាងមកពីអង្គការអន្តរជាតិក៏ដូចជាអ្នកស្រាវជ្រាវដែលមានបទពិសោធន៍នៅលើប្រធានបទនេះចឹងជាកិច្ចបន្ទាប់ខ្ញុំសូមយកឱកាសនេះដើម្បីស្វាគមន៍វាគ្មិនរបស់យើងក្នុងវគ្គទី1នេះជាបឋមខ្ញុំសូមស្វាគមន៍វាគ្មិនទី1គឺអាដាមគួយសុមានបាទអាដាមបានចាប់ចូលបម្រើការនៅក្នុងក្រសួងការងារបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលវិជ្ជាជីវៈចាប់តាំងពីឆ្នាំ2012មកម្ល៉េះហើយអាដាមក៏ធ្លាប់មានតួនាទីសំខាន់ដូចជាអគ្គលេខាធិការនៃអគ្គលេខាធិការដ្ឋានក្រមប្រឹក្សាជាតិប្រាក់ឈ្នួលបរិមាអនុប្រធានទីភ្នាក់ងារជាតិនិងមុខរបរនិងការងារបច្ចុប្បន្នអាដាមមានតួនាទីជារដ្ឋលេខាធិការនៃក្រសួងការងារបណ្ដុះបណ្ដាលនិងវិជ្ជាជីវៈអាដាមបានចូលរួមយ៉ាងសកម្មក្នុងការអភិវឌ្ឍក៏ដូចជាលើកកម្ពស់សេវាការងារសាធារណៈប្រព័ន្ធព័ត៌មានទីផ្សារការងារសន្តិសុខសង្គមប្រាក់ឈ្នួលបរិមានិងចូលរួមក្នុងការរៀបចំគោលនយោបាយផ្សេងៗអាដាមបានបញ្ចប់ថ្នាក់អនុបណ្ឌិតផ្នែក Apply Economics for Development ពីប្រទេសបារាំងនិងអ៊ីតាលីផ្នែកគ្រប់គ្រងពីប្រទេសបារាំងព្រមទាំងបច្ចុប្បន្ននេះអាដាមបានបន្តការសិក្សាថ្នាក់បណ្ឌិតនៅសាកលវិទ្យាល័យ Nagoya University ផ្នែកសេដ្ឋកិច្ចអភិវឌ្ឍន៍បាទសម្រាប់វាគ្មិនទី2គឺលោកបណ្ឌិត Rashesh Shrestha បាទលោកបណ្ឌិតជាសេដ្ឋវិទូនៃវិទ្យាស្ថានសិក្សាស្រាវជ្រាវសេដ្ឋកិច្ចសម្រាប់អាស៊ាននិងអាស៊ីបូព៌ា Area ដែលធ្វើការស្រាវជ្រាវទៅលើទីផ្សារការងារការអភិវឌ្ឍសេដ្ឋកិច្ចក៏ដូចជាការវិនិយោគទៅលើមូលធនមនុស្សមុនការចូលរួមជាមួយនឹង Area លោកបណ្ឌិតជាជំនួយការសាស្ត្រាចារ្យនៅសាកលវិទ្យាល័យជាតិអូស្ត្រាលីលោកបណ្ឌិតក៏ទទួលបានថ្នាក់បណ្ឌិតផ្នែកកសិកម្មនិងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចពីសាកលវិទ្យាល័យ Wisconsin Madisonបាទសម្រាប់វាគ្មិនទី3សូមស្វាគមន៍លោកសាស្ត្រាចារ្យ Sandre Thangavelu បាទលោកសាស្ត្រាចារ្យជាប្រធានវិទ្យាស្ថាន Jeffrey Chef Institute for Southeast Asia និងជាអ្នកជំនាញជាន់ខ្ពស់នៃមជ្ឈមណ្ឌល Jeffrey Chef for Sustainable Development នៅសាកលវិទ្យាល័យ Sunway University ប្រទេសម៉ាឡេស៊ីលោកសាស្ត្រាចារ្យក៏បានចូលរួមបម្រើការងារនៅសាកលវិទ្យាល័យ Adelaide នៃប្រទេសអូស្ត្រាលីផងដែរនៅឆ្នាំ2021លោកសាស្ត្រាចារ្យក៏ទទួលបានតំណែងជាទីប្រឹក្សាពាណិជ្ជកម្មរបស់រដ្ឋមន្ត្រីក្រសួងពាណិជ្ជកម្មរបស់កម្ពុជាលោកសាស្ត្រាចារ្យជាអ្នកជំនាញផ្នែកធនធានមនុស្សការវិនិយោគផ្ទាល់ពីបរទេសនិងសមាហរណកម្មនៅក្នុងអាស៊ានលោកសាស្ត្រាចារ្យក៏មានស្នាដៃជាច្រើនក្នុងការនិពន្ធសៀវភៅមួយចំនួនដូចជាសៀវភៅណែនាំស្តីពីសមាហរណកម្មសេដ្ឋកិច្ចអាស៊ីបូព៌ាជាដើមបាទជាកិច្ចបន្ទាប់នេះដើម្បីកុំឲ្យខាតពេលវេលាយូរយើងខ្ញុំសូមបញ្ជាក់ពីprocess នៃការពិភាក្សានេះនៅក្នុងវគ្គទី1គឺយើងជាបឋមគឺយើងមានបទអន្តរកម្មដោយធ្វើការបទបង្ហាញដោយលោកបណ្ឌិត Rashesh Shrestha ទៅលើប្រធានបទបម្រែបម្រួលពលកម្មនិងបញ្ហាប្រឈមក្នុងតំបន់អាស៊ាននិងប្រធានបទទី2ធ្វើបទបង្ហាញដោយសាស្ត្រាចារ្យ Professor Sandre ដូច្នេះហើយតកតងជាមួយនឹង economic policies ដូចមានបានជំរាបពីខាងដើមដូច្នេះហើយជាបឋមខ្ញុំសូមអញ្ជើញលោកបណ្ឌិត Rashesh Shrestha ដើម្បីធ្វើបទបង្ហាញបាទសូមអរគុណ
Thank you very much, Excellencies, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this important labor economics conference. And I'd like to start the presentation by talking a little bit about the broad dynamics that the ASEAN labor market is going to be facing over the next medium and long term, and what kind of policies and preparations need to be made by policymakers to try to take advantage of the opportunities that arise because of the dynamics, and then sort of the challenges that needs to be faced and how to address those challenges. First of all, let me introduce briefly my institute area, Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, is an international research organization based in Jakarta, and we work on policy-oriented research in support of ASEAN countries as well as the ASEAN institution. And our work mostly focuses on trade, labor, digitalization, sustainability, and a lot of new areas. So very happy to be here. So let me start by giving the broad theme of the next slide. Yeah. So I think that the main theme that I would like to sort of focus my presentation on is about employment transition. As the economies of ASEAN are growing and as global forces are reorganizing investments in the region, the structure of employment is also changing quite rapidly. And the employment transition, the essence of employment transition is that workers have to move from declining sectors or slow-growing sectors to emerging sectors. And this is a natural part of economic growth and development. And ASEAN has experienced that quite a bit over the past 20, 30 years as workers move from agriculture into the manufacturing sector. But as the economies grow further, the employment transition also changes as the sources of growth changes. So if you look at the data in terms of manufacturing employment as the percentage of total employment, for the Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam, the more developing ASEAN countries, the trends are actually rising quite fast. And especially for Cambodia's trend, the share of manufacturing employment is actually rising quite rapidly over the past 25 years. Whereas we compare that to other ASEAN, the more developed ASEAN countries, so the so-called ASEAN 6, the manufacturing share of employment has been flat or declining over the past, which underscores the changes that the economies are undergoing. And basically, the ASEAN 6 countries are more focused on the services sector as the main source of economic growth. Whereas for Cambodia and for Vietnam, the manufacturing is still an important sector and continues to be quite an important part of the job creation. But these sectors themselves are also now being affected by global megatrends. So next slide. So what has changed in more recent years is that the pace of economic change has accelerated. And which means that the workers' transition also needs to be quite fast. And that is the one that creates a bigger challenge because usually during the earlier periods, the transition was from agriculture to low-skilled manufacturing sectors, which does not require a lot of training or changing of skills. But now, because of technological changes, because of the reorganization of supply chains, as well as because of climate and sustainability challenges, as well as demographic transition or an aging society in some ASEAN countries, the pace of change has increased, which means that the policies and programs that are put in place by ASEAN governments need to prepare workers to transition more rapidly out of the traditional sectors into more modern sectors and from declining sectors to the growing sectors. And today in the presentation, I will talk a little bit more detail about these 4 mega trends that are affecting the employment that are affecting the employment transition, and how crew take advantage of the opportunities that arise from each of those four transitions. So the first, next slide. So the first one is in terms of supply chain organization. So again, the global landscape in terms of supply chain has been evolving quite rapidly. And in the past month, there has been a big change, especially given the geopolitical tensions and sort of the trade policies of the United States, where President Trump threatening tariffs on all countries over the world. And coincidentally, US is a major market for Cambodian products. And so, therefore, all of these changes globally are going to have a profound effect on supply chain, how supply chains are organized. So, Cambodia specifically was able to grow rapidly in the past 10, 15 years through investments in the garment and textile sectors. But with the new economic landscape globally, I think there would be some changes in how the supply chains are reorganized. Also in the more modern sectors like automotives, where Cambodia would like to enter and be the source of growth, I think the way the investments are structured and where the supply chains are structured are also changing because of the current global landscape. So in terms of what the supply chain could be doing in the future, so there are three major aspects of it. So one is consolidation. So basically, because supply chains, because of technological changes as well as a greater possibility of automation and other and digitalization, a lot of the supply chains that were fragmented before could be consolidated. Means that it will be moving back to more developed parts of the world and more technologically advanced. There is still opportunity for diversification, especially example is the China Plus strategy that many firms and businesses might want to adopt to prepare for the changes in the trade policies of developed countries against China. So there is a move towards diversification as well. The challenge is how to attract those investments into the country, how to prepare and make sure that there are policies in place to bring some of those supply chains into the countries in ASEAN. The third one is in terms of reshoring, and because supply chain resilience is as a big decision-making factor for many firms and businesses, a lot of them might want to take the supply chains back to the home base as well to respond to the current economic landscape. Which means that the job creation effect of supply chains that was been the feature of ASEAN's economic growth in the past 20 to 25 years might change, and ASEAN needs to prepare for that kind of change in terms of how to create jobs in the region, how to ensure that workers can move out of agriculture and more informal sectors to the more formal and sort of sectors that enable wage growth for them. Next slide. So the next one is in terms of how the technology is also going to be affecting the labor market. Here I highlight the four broad changes that technology is going to create and how that will affect the labor market transition. The first one is in terms of substitution of human labor, and we already know about the big effect that AI technology like ChatGPT is having taking place. And initially, in the past, let's say before the pandemic, the main concern in terms of the substitution of human labor was on low-skilled, non-cognitive tasks. That was the major sort of wisdom before the pandemic. But now, with the increase in the artificial intelligence capabilities, even some of the cognitive tasks are also going to be substituted by workers. Of course. It does not mean that jobs are going to be obsolete, but there will be jobs created. But that brings to the second point, which is that the composition of skill demand is going to be changing as well. So the jobs that would be available for human labor is going to be more skill intensive, which means that there is a need to also focus on improving the skills. And this is a challenge because for many countries in ASEAN, the skill level is still quite low. And there needs to be a massive investment in skill upgrading in order to ensure that they can take advantage of the technological changes. The third one is in terms of employment relationships. So it's not only about the jobs that are created, but also what kind of jobs are created, the quality of the jobs, the nature of the jobs, the relationships between the workers and the employees. So one big movement in this case is the freelancing and gig economy are going to be a greater part of the labor market, and of course they are formal jobs, but still sort of having a very loose attachment to the worker, to the employer, which means that the regulations and sort of ways that social protection was being thought of will have to change as well to address these new forms of employment. And also in terms of work mode, remote work is now much more possible given the rapid improvements in digital technology since the pandemic. And which also means that there is a greater possibility of cross-border supply of work or labor. And sort of this kind of opportunities could be taken advantage of if the right infrastructure and skills are in place. So the key message here is that skill development is going to be a crucial part of of the story in terms of reaping the economic benefits of technology if we want to ensure that there is inclusive growth, as was mentioned in the earlier speeches. Next slide, please. This is just to give you a quick case study. So automotive sector is one of the sectors that has been, that will undergo quite rapid change. It's one of the key sectors in ASEAN. It has basically benefited from the production networks being formed in ASEAN. Even, of course, much of the automotive sector is concentrated in Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, but Vietnam, Philippines, and even Cambodia is trying to enter the sector. There's some activities right now, and we want Cambodia would like to increase sort of the size of the sector in Cambodia, which is sort of the roadmap that I came across from 2 years ago. But next slide, please. But if you look at what's happening in the sector is that the future of the automotive sector is going to be what's called CASE, autonomous, connected, shared, and electric. So that is what the future of this sector is going to look like. And there's already a lot of changes that are happening in the sector. So automotive sector is one of the highest adopters of robotic technology, which means that the job creation or the job elasticity of the growth of this sector is going to be smaller. So even if we have a big economic activity in this sector, the number of jobs created might not be as big as used to be in the past. Of course, and then in the more advanced aspect, the artificial intelligence and Internet of Things are going to be a big part of this sector, with autonomous vehicles, smart manufacturing technologies, and safety enhancements using data and AI. So to prepare or to expand on this sector, there is a need to also to create a skilled workforce, which are more versed with technical skills as well as the digital skills. Which would be of more greater demand in this sector than the traditional sort of low-skilled production employment. But next slide. But if you look at the index for digital skills in ASEAN, that it varies quite a bit by country. So Cambodia, this 2001 index was second from the bottom at the time, but there is a quite variation. So there is a need to upgrade the skills. And to ensure that the workers are equipped with the right skills to be able to take advantage of the changes because of technology. Next slide, please. Again, the skill development is not only about getting workers the good jobs, but they also have spillover effects on other policy goals that we have. For example, this is the case of SME digitalization. So we want to also make sure that MSMEs are able to adopt the digital technologies to enhance their productivity. But if you don't have a good pool of highly skilled workers to provide those services to MSMEs, then it will be difficult for them to digitalize. Because one of the key challenges for MSME digitalization is the lack of skills for the MSME workers and entrepreneurs. And because by definition, MSMEs cannot have in-house skills all the time for all required skills, it's important that the labor market creates enough of those services at low enough cost that the MSMEs can adopt the digital skills in the market. But that does require for the country to have a large enough pool of digital talent that can then provide those services as cheaply as possible to foster greater MSME digitalization. So this skill policy does have other spillovers in other areas of policy as well. Next slide, please. And the third one is in terms of sustainability and green economy transition. Again, these are going to change quite a bit in terms of how productions are organized and how products are marketed. And this does require a different set of skills. For example, adopting circular economy principles in the production process requires one to understand how we can sort of ensure the output can be recycled back into the production. And there is some opportunities that are created around this sector as well. For example, so-called green jobs are going to be quite important, and green skills, or skills required to transform the sectors into more climate-friendly production processes, is a specific skill that is required. And producing those skills would help countries transition to digital, to this kind of sustainability as well. For example, just to take an example of the green economy opportunities in textile and apparel, upcycling and recycling of textiles, which is one of the big sector in Cambodia, would be the sort of the natural strategy for Cambodia to try to to also grow the business, not only by producing the garments, textile, but also so producing the necessary skills required to upcycle and create sustainable fibers and other areas. So this is just one example of how sustainability could create opportunities, but it would require skills. Next slide. The final one is in the terms of demographic transition, where aging society also requires policies to extend the working life of people by creating suitable jobs and work environment. This is not so much a problem for Cambodia and for many ASEAN countries, but there are few ASEAN countries for which demographic transition is going to be quite immediate and imminent, and therefore they need to prepare. But it's also an opportunity for countries like Cambodia, where they will be relatively more, they will be capable of providing some of those labor that is needed by more aging countries in ASEAN. So there's a room for cooperation within ASEAN to ensure that the demographic transition is as smooth and as minimally disruptive as possible. Next slide, please. So in terms of sort of what are the policy challenges, I would like to just focus on the three sort of broad categories. The one is in terms of skill development, so increase opportunities to gain skills for workers. The second one is to improve labor market efficiency to facilitate shifting of workers from growing sectors locations. So it's not only important to have the skills, but also to make sure that the labor market is able to allocate those skills in the correct, in the way that's as efficient as possible. And for some workers who are unable to adjust, would need to implement strong social protection to those that would likely be left behind by the current trends. And I think in the interest of time, I'll skip this one, but what we need to focus on in terms of skill development is the whole ecosystem of skill development, not just focusing on education and TVET sector, but also looking at analysis of labor demand, about making sure that the industrial policies are also talking to the labor policymakers to make sure that there's a coordination between them. Also creating labor market information systems that would ensure that the new skills and the new job demands are communicated to the education institutions so that they can adequately create the training programs needed to ensure that there's a skills match in the whole economy. Next slide, please. And I think to have a comprehensive approach, we need to focus on improving productivity in the services sector, which is actually going to be quite important in the future growth. We have to foster innovation, is taking in entrepreneurship. There's a need for regulation that would strike a balance between protection and flexibility. And as the Excellency Minister earlier mentioned, it is important to invest early in life because that's when human capital accumulation process starts. So it's important to invest in early life environment, including in education and health, and also provide opportunities for upskilling and lifelong learning to those that are currently in the labor market. Next slide, please. Finally, in terms of cooperation at the ASEAN level, it is important for ASEAN to work together as they have done in various other sectors, other areas. They should also work together in skill development and in labor market transition so that the region as a whole can benefit from the new mega trends. So in terms of cooperation, there's a requirement, or there's transparency information sharing, also cooperation on the skill development ecosystem, including TVET and digital skills. And finally, facilitating movement of digital skills through mutual recognition, as well as through fostering more permissive policies to have greater movement of skilled workers would be something that ASEAN could work together on to ensure that there is enough skills circulating within ASEAN to have economic growth in the future. That's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention, and happy to answer questions later during the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rashesh Shrestha, for the presentations.